500 million years ago, long before dinosaurs, before forests, even before fish as we know them, the oceans were theaters of unimaginable strangeness. This was the Cambrian, a time when evolution exploded with bizarre experiments, creatures so alien that even today they defy logic. Among them lived a hunter so strange that when its fossil was first reconstructed, scientists laughed out loud. Its body was short and segmented, its tail fan-shaped, its head sprouting 5 eyes that swiveled like turrets, and from beneath those eyes extended a long, flexible trunk tipped with a claw, an appendage that could seize prey and deliver it straight to a circular mouth hidden under its head. This was Opabinia. In the shallow seas of what is now Canada's Burgess Shale, Opabinia prowled among mats of algae and clouds of drifting plankton. It was small, no longer than the length of your hand, but in the Cambrian arms race, size was no guarantee of safety. With its 5 eyes, Opabinia could scan in almost every direction at once, a living periscope, watching for both prey and predators. When tiny worms wriggled across the seafloor, or shrimp-like creatures darted through the silt, Opabinia's proboscis would lash out, clamp down, and drag the victim into its hidden mouth. Yet Opabinia itself lived under constant threat. Giant Anomalocaris, the apex predator of the Cambrian seas, swam above, armed with spiny claws and a circular mouth ringed with teeth. In the shadow of such monsters, Opabinia's best defense was its agility and its eyes, each one a sentinel scanning the shifting haze of water. To modern eyes, Opabinia looks like a joke, part vacuum cleaner, part alien probe. But in its time, it was a marvel of survival, a strange little pioneer in a world where life was still inventing what it meant to be an animal. Its 5 eyes remind us that evolution does not follow rules. It improvises, experiments, and sometimes creates forms so bizarre they seem impossible. And yet, for millions of years, Opabinia thrived. The Cambrian seas were like a living laboratory, every creature an experiment, every body plan a gamble. For the first time in Earth's history, animals were diversifying into strange and radical forms. Some grew shells for protection, some sprouted spines for defense, others stretched into bizarre shapes, their bodies twisting in ways evolution had never tried before. In this strange menagerie, Opabinia was both predator and prey, small but cunning, armed not with teeth or armor, but with senses that could not be escaped. Its 5 eyes gleamed like glass orbs, perched high on stalks that gave it nearly panoramic vision. No shadow passed above without being noticed. No flicker of movement in the mud escaped its gaze. Each eye relayed a different angle, a different story of the world around it, stitching together a map of dangers and opportunities. To live in the Cambrian Sea was to live on the edge of survival, and for Opabinia, awareness was everything. The body of Opabinia undulated gently as it swam, propelled by lateral flaps that lined its sides. With each wave of motion, it glided over mats of cyanobacteria and rippling fields of algae. The seafloor shimmered with life, soft-bodied worms, trilobites scuttling like armored beetles, tiny sponges filtering water into silent clouds. Prey was everywhere, but predators were everywhere too. It moved cautiously, its long proboscis curling and uncurling like the arm of some strange machine. The claw at its tip twitched, flexing as though impatient, always ready to snatch the smallest wriggling meal. When a worm shifted beneath a veil of silt, Opabinia struck, its trunk darting forward, grasping and retracting in a swift motion. The worm disappeared beneath its body, swallowed by the circular mouth hidden below. To the worm it was over in a heartbeat. To Opabinia, it was one more spark of energy in a dangerous world. But shadows always lurked. Above, the giant form of Anomalocaris drifted through the water, its spiny arms sweeping like nets, its compound eyes huge and unblinking. Compared to Anomalocaris, Opabinia was a mere morsel, a fragile bundle of flesh and nerves. When the predator passed, Opabinia stilled, pressing close to the seafloor, its body flattening against the sand. Its 5 eyes tilted upward, tracking the monster's every motion. Only when the shadow dissolved into the haze did it stir again. For creatures like Opabinia, survival meant constant vigilance. It was too small to dominate, too strange to vanish, and so it lived in the margins, thriving in the cracks of the Cambrian ecosystem, hidden in its strangeness. The Cambrian Ocean was not a place of silence, but a constant hum of motion. Soft-bodied creatures stirred the sediment into clouds. Trilobites clattered across the seabed in groups, and jellyfish drifted like pale lanterns through the currents. In this crowded theater, Opabinia had carved its niche as a small but precise hunter, its strange form perfectly tuned for its time. Each glide across the seafloor was a gamble. Beneath the surface of the mud lay burrowing worms that could serve as prey, but the act of probing with its trunk risked exposure. A sudden flicker of light above could mean an Anomalocaris, or another predator waiting to strike. Opabinia's 5 eyes constantly shifted, scanning for both opportunity and danger in a rhythm older than thought. When hunger gnawed too deeply, it pressed the risk. With a curling motion, its proboscis plunged into the silt, the claw flexing to capture anything it touched. Once, it closed around a tiny arthropod, its legs thrashing as it was hauled upward. Another time, the claw returned empty, its prey having slipped deeper into safety. Each attempt was a reminder. Survival was never guaranteed. Sometimes the danger came from below. Buried predators, worm-like creatures with snapping jaws, would lunge from the sediment in bursts of violence. Opabinia had learned to twist aside, its body curling, its flaps pulsing with frantic beats. One mistake, one moment too slow, and it would vanish into the jaws of something unseen. The Cambrian world was not ruled by size alone. It was ruled by adaptation, by strangeness, by experiments in body and form. Some creatures wore armor so heavy they moved like tanks across the seabed. Others bristled with spines that turned their soft flesh into fortresses. But Opabinia carried no armor, no spines, no speed. Its weapon was awareness, its strange 5-eyed head watching from every angle. Its trunk ready to strike the instant prey revealed itself. When dusk-like shadows dimmed the shallow sea, the water filled with floating debris, plankton rising, larvae drifting, the endless swarm of life that pulsed through Cambrian currents. Opabinia swam among them, its body gliding like a ribbon, trunk snapping up morsels too small to see clearly. Each capture was swift, almost mechanical, a rhythm of strike and swallow, until its hunger eased. But even in feeding, it was hunted. Once, as it devoured a cluster of tiny worms, the looming form of Anomalocaris swept from above. Its clawed appendages closed like cages, its massive mouth a ring of teeth rotating with deadly precision. Opabinia's eyes caught the movement an instant before the strike. With a desperate twist, it darted sideways, its flaps beating frantically, the claw just grazing its body. The water exploded in silt and fear. For a moment, Opabinia was lost in the cloud. Then it slipped into a crevice in the seabed, pressing its body flat against stone. The predator lingered, circling, its great eyes scanning. But Anomalocaris was built for motion, not patience. It drifted away, leaving the tiny survivor trembling in silence. In that narrow escape lay the truth of Opabinia's life. Every meal won was balanced by a brush with death. Yet for all its vulnerability, Opabinia thrived. It multiplied in those seas, filling niches others could not. Its strange trunk let it probe cracks and burrows, places too small for larger hunters. Its 5 eyes gave it a warning system, unmatched in its scale. And its small size, a weakness in combat, became a strength in concealment. While monsters clashed above, Opabinia endured below, quietly harvesting life from the shadows. Generations passed, and the Cambrian world shifted in slow but relentless patterns. Reefs grew, crumbled, and grew again. Species rose to dominance only to vanish in the turning of ages. But Opabinia's body, so bizarre to human eyes, was no joke to its own time. It was a survivor's shape, a design tested and proven by millions of years of struggle. Imagine the seafloor after a storm had churned the currents. Broken fragments of sponges and algae drifted like wreckage across the sand. Small arthropods scurried to bury themselves. Trilobites huddled in groups, their shells pressed tight. In this chaos, Opabinia prowled, slipping between debris, eyes swiveling, trunk darting. It was a scavenger as well as a hunter, seizing scraps of life wherever it found them. The fan at the end of its tail flicked like a rudder, steering each glide. Though its body lacked the brute power of other swimmers, the combination of flaps and tail gave it surprising agility. With sudden twists, it could dart sideways, snatch prey, and vanish into cover before larger predators could react. It was not speed that saved it, but unpredictability. Sometimes when the waters cleared, Opabinia would rise above the seafloor, floating in the open. From this higher vantage, its 5 eyes scanned the endless blue-green haze. Shapes drifted in the distance, some harmless, some lethal. The open water was dangerous, but it was also rich. Here, plankton swirled in dense clouds, drifting like galaxies in the sunlit sea. With delicate motions, Opabinia drifted among them, feeding in a silence broken only by the thrum of distant fins. When danger returned, it returned swiftly. A shadow larger than any it had seen passed overhead, blotting the sunlight. Anomalocaris again, but closer this time, its massive claws sweeping down. Opabinia twisted, trunk lashing in panic, body flipping in a desperate corkscrew. The predator lunged, jaws clashing on empty water. With frantic beats of its flaps, the smaller creature vanished into the maze of algae. Behind it, the shadow lingered, but hunger drove the giant elsewhere. The Cambrian Sea was never forgiving. Every moment was a calculation, every movement a wager. For Opabinia, survival meant walking the edge between predator and prey, strangeness and strength. It was not the largest, nor the fiercest, but it endured. And as it endured, it left a legacy. Though it would vanish with time, its fossil would one day be uncovered, its 5-eyed face staring back through 500 million years. Scientists would laugh at its absurdity, but in truth, there was nothing absurd about it. Opabinia had lived, hunted, and survived in a world of monsters. Its strangeness was its strength, and its story, though small, was part of the great unfolding drama of life. In the shallow currents of Cambrian seas, light filtered down in golden beams, scattering into ribbons that danced across the seafloor. Among the ferns of algae and sponges, Opabinia glided, its small body weaving through a jungle that was no forest, but felt just as dense. Its 5 eyes rolled and swiveled, each catching glints of motion, a trilobite shifting, a worm curling deeper, a jelly-like creature drifting past. Its proboscis unfurled, curling forward like a living whip. The claw at its tip snapped shut on a soft-bodied worm, pulling it quickly into the mouth beneath its head. The meal was swallowed whole, dissolved into fuel. In a world of giants, Opabinia's success was measured in small victories, each worm or larva another hour of survival. Sometimes survival meant retreat. Once, as it probed the sediment, the ground erupted beneath it. A predatory worm, its jaws ringed with sharp teeth, lunged upward. For a heartbeat, the worm's teeth grazed Opabinia's flank. It twisted violently, flaps beating in a ripple that sent it spiraling away. Sand clouded the water as the worm thrashed, but Opabinia had escaped, vanishing into the cover of algae fronds. Its life was a constant dance between hunger and fear. Too bold, and it risked becoming food. Too timid, and it starved. The balance was fragile, yet Opabinia held it with the patience of instinct, moving slowly when the sea was quiet, darting suddenly when opportunity appeared. Above, the silhouette of Anomalocaris returned often, drifting with deliberate grace, its spined arms flexing like scythes. Its compound eyes scanned the world below, unblinking, relentless. For creatures like Opabinia, this was death embodied. a force that could strike without warning. The only defense was vigilance, to vanish into cracks, to flatten against stone, to trust the odd gift of 5 eyes to see what others might miss. When storms churned the seas, the shallow waters became chaos. Currents tore through algae mats, tumbling debris across the floor. Trilobites rolled helplessly. Worms were ripped from burrows. Even predators were tossed like leaves. In that chaos, Opabinia found opportunity. It darted among the debris, plucking at stunned creatures, snatching what others had lost. For once, the giants were slowed, their strength useless against the storm, and the small hunters feasted. Yet even storms carried danger. More than once, a sudden surge flung Opabinia into open water, exposed to eyes that hunted relentlessly. It would thrash with its flaps, curling its body to steer, seeking again the safety of the seafloor. The storm's gift was food, but the price was always risk. In calmer moments, Opabinia's movements grew almost graceful. It swam in lazy arcs, flaps rippling, tail fan guiding its turns. Its trunk curled and uncurled idly, a sentinel always ready. Sometimes it seemed almost curious, probing not for prey but for texture, pressing its claw against stones, shells, or sponge flesh. Instinct alone might drive it, but to human eyes it looked like exploration. The Cambrian seas glittered with diversity. Creatures of all forms pulsed, crawled, drifted, and swam. Some bore armor, some bore spines, some were nearly transparent. Many would vanish in the blink of geologic time, leaving only faint impressions in stone. But for now they filled the water with constant life, and Opabinia thrived among them, its strange form perfectly matched to this alien stage. One day, as light dimmed into a murky dusk, Opabinia prowled along a ridge of rock. Beneath it, trilobites clustered, their shells gleaming like coins in the sand. It crept closer, its eyes watching, its trunk curling. The trilobites shifted uneasily, sensing movement, but too late. The claw darted, seizing a soft-bodied creature hiding among them. In a flick, it was gone, swallowed whole, while the armored trilobites scuttled away in alarm. Such victories fed more than its belly. They fed survival's chain. To live long enough to breed, to leave offspring that carried its strange form into the next tide, this was the true measure of success. Each meal, each escape, was another step in that ancient rhythm of life. But the Cambrian seas were merciless to the unwary. One careless rise into open water, one moment too slow, and Opabinia could vanish forever, just another morsel in the endless feast. Its story was one of narrow escapes and quiet triumphs, lived in the margins of giants. As twilight fell across the shallow ocean, the water shimmered with drifting plankton. Opabinia glided among them, its trunk darting, its claw seizing, its eyes forever watching. It was small, strange, fragile. Yet it endured, thriving in a world so alien that even we, 500 million years later, can barely imagine it. And in its endurance it wrote its name into the great story of life, not with size or strength, but with strangeness, with adaptation, with the quiet brilliance of survival. The Cambrian Ocean never stopped testing. Day after day, predator and prey clashed in endless cycles. But Opabinia endured, a 5-eyed hunter whose bizarre design was its shield, its weapon, and its legacy. Though it was destined to vanish, leaving behind only fossils pressed into stone, it mattered. For every strange form that endured, others followed, branching into new possibilities, shaping the future of life. In the silence of ancient seas, Opabinia lived, hunted, and survived. And in doing so, it proved a truth older than time, that sometimes the strangest designs are the ones that work. In the Cambrian seas, balance was always temporary. When Opabinia slipped between algae mats and probed the mud with its trunk, it lived in the shadows of giants. Above, Anomalocaris drifted like a phantom, its claws outstretched, eyes vast and unblinking. Trilobites marched in armored lines, their shells clattering as if the ocean itself were made of bronze. Worms bristling with spines burrowed through the sediment, their jaws snapping in ambush. For Opabinia, existence was not about ruling but enduring. Its 5 eyes offered safety, its small size offered escape, and its strange trunk gave it access to food others ignored. In cracks too small for predators, it fed. In storms that shook the seafloor, it scavenged. Even when hunted, its survival came from slipping away, vanishing into crevices, surviving by being strange enough to fit where others could not. This was its gift and its curse. It thrived in the margins, but it was always at the mercy of larger forces. Opabinia was not a king, not a terror, not even a titan. It was a survivor, quiet, overlooked, but persistent. And in the Cambrian, persistence was everything. Time, however, does not forgive. As millions of years passed, seas shifted, climates changed, and new creatures emerged. Anomalocaris itself would vanish, replaced by predators with sharper senses and harder bodies. The delicate form of Opabinia, so well suited for its age, slowly lost its place. Other hunters took its niche. Other creatures evolved with stronger limbs, tougher shells, faster reflexes. The 5-eyed hunter became rarer, its kind fading into the depths of time. But fossils endure where flesh cannot. In the Burgess Shale of Canada, 500 million years later, Opabinia returned, its body pressed into stone, its 5 eyes staring out across eternity, its trunk still frozen in mid-curve. When scientists uncovered it, they laughed, not from disrespect but from shock at its absurdity. 5 eyes, a clawed proboscis, a circular mouth hidden beneath the head. It seemed too bizarre to be real, but it was real. Opabinia had lived, hunted, and thrived in a world stranger than dreams. Its extinction was not failure. Its story was proof of what evolution can do, how life experiments, how survival can wear 1,000 forms, how even the strangest design can succeed for millions of years. To us, Opabinia looks like an alien, a creature from some distant world. But in truth, it was part of our own story, a chapter in the long book of life on Earth. And so the tale of Opabinia closes not in tragedy, but in wonder. It reminds us that survival does not always belong to the largest or fiercest. Sometimes it belongs to the strangest, to the ones that slip between the cracks, to the designs so odd they seem impossible. Opabinia's 5 eyes will never blink again. Its trunk will never curl in hunger. Its fantail will never guide it through Cambrian seas. But its fossil speaks, across 500 million years, of a world where life dared to be strange and found a way to thrive. If this story of the 5-eyed hunter captured your imagination, if you want to see more forgotten beasts, more experiments of evolution buried in stone, then join us. Subscribe to Ancient Beast Behavior and step with us into the deep past. The oceans are still full of secrets, and the strangest creatures are often the ones that leave the most lasting mark.